Thursday, July 30, 1908. The World, New York. Saw two men pour acid on slain girl and burn mattress. Witness of crime on Greenpoint dump gives accurate descriptions of men who brought body in a wagon. One of the acting Captain Madigan's men this afternoon found a citizen whose story proves that at least two men were concerned in the butchery of the young woman whose body, with the throat cut, the face marred by vitriol, and the limbs soaked in oil, was shoved into a brush fire on the Greenpoint Avenue dumping ground. This citizen is Philip O'Brien, a reputable artisan living at number 49 Broome Street, Greenpoint. As a result of his statement, the police have excellent descriptions of the two men who brought the body to the edge of Whale Creek, where it was subsequently found in the flames half consumed. At the Greenpoint Avenue station, O'Brien made this statement. Tuesday night, I crossed from my home into Blissville, just opposite Greenpoint, to a house where a friend of mine, Mrs. Lafferty, had died. It was between 3 and 4 o'clock Wednesday morning when I left the wake and started back for my home. I took a shortcut across the field between Humboldt Street and Greenpoint Avenue. Saw a covered wagon. I was near the Humboldt Avenue side of the lot when I saw a covered wagon coming toward me. It was drawn by a bay horse. The wagon was painted some dark color and had a name on the side, but I did not make out the name. I could plainly see a golden circle painted on the hood of the wagon, with the word groceries in gold letters inside. The wagon halted on the edge of the creek. The two men got down from the seat and pulled out of the back end of the wagon what looked like a big mattress rolled up and tied with cord. They stood the bundle up on end. One of them poured something out of a bottle down into the folds, and then they dropped it on the ground. One of the men got back in the wagon. The other pulled out a lot of brushwood and rubbish over the mattress, and then stooped down and put a match to it. Drove off at full speed. This second man waited until the fire was well started. Then he jumped in the wagon. His companion lashed the horse with a whip, and they went at a gallop across the lot into Greenpoint Avenue, and down past the police station toward the ferry landing. I could hear the rig traveling at high speed after it had got out of my sight. At the time, I attached no importance to the incident because I supposed the men were simply destroying bedding that had been used by someone of an infectious disease. For this same reason, I did not approach the fire closely. I got a good look at both of the men. They were foreigners, and I think Italians. The man who drove the wagon was about 24 years old, about 5 feet 9 inches tall, smooth-faced, with dark complexion. He wore a dark suit and a light derby hat. The other man appeared to be about 27 years old, was about 5 feet 6 inches tall, and very much darker than his partner. He had, I think, a short mustache. He wore dark trousers, but was in his shirt sleeves. Neither of the men wore collar or necktie. After making a second autopsy on the body of the victim, coroner's physician Charles Weist made a statement at the Brooklyn morgue this afternoon, which still further complicated the mystery. Last night, at my first examination, I found a deep incision in the neck, said Dr. Weist. Further examination today shows conclusively that it must have been inflicted by a skilled physician. It is such an incision as is made below the Adam's apple into the windpipe in desperate cases of diphtheria in order to save the patient from strangulation. There is no question in my mind that someone skilled in medicine made this cut. I feel sure that the wound was inflicted before death. Whether or not it was the cause of death, I cannot say. I am having a careful analysis made of the stomach with a view to ascertaining whether or not drugs were administered. As the result of a house-to-house canvass which his men made through the foreign settlements of Williamsburg, seeking for clues to the identity of the young woman, Acting Captain Madigan of the Greenpoint Police Station has asked that a general alarm be sent out for Stanislaus Moskowicz, a stevedore who lived lately at number 197 DuPont Street. In a colony where 5,000 Poles, Russians, and Lithuanians live, two of the plainclothes men struck the first real lead at the DuPont Street address. Mrs. Josie Jimbrowski told them this: "Until Monday, my sister, Mamie Moskowicz, and her husband, Stanislaus, lived here with me. They often quarreled, and he threatened her. On Monday, they packed up and left the house. They told me they were going to Stamford, Connecticut, where he had got work. I thought nothing strange of this until a neighbor told my husband that he saw Stanislaus hurrying along the street near here last night alone." Mrs. Jimbrowski and another sister, Mrs. H. Ponkonsky of number 1056 Manhattan Avenue, were at once brought to the station house. They looked at the scraps of burned garments and the scapular that had been taken from the murdered woman's corpse, but not being satisfied, they started for morgue to examine the body. It had already been shown that the mattress in which the body was rolled did not come from the flat which the Moskowiczes vacated Monday. The first two men who called at the morgue, George Wolfe of number 150 DuPont Street, who has a sister missing, and Tony Angelus of number 53 Rapallier Street, whose wife vanished from home a few days ago, soon satisfied themselves that they had never seen the victim of the Whale Creek butchery. This dead woman was too old for Wolfe's wife, and De Angelis's sister wore no scapular. An Evening World reporter today got further trace of the movements of the covered one-horse wagon, which crossed the dumping ground at a gallop early Wednesday morning, about an hour before the discovery of the burning body. John Cornelius, gatekeeper of the ferryboat Alaska, which plies between Greenpoint and the foot of East 23rd Street, New York, revealed that among the 18 single-team vehicles which he checked through on the 3:15 a.m. trip from the Long Island side was a covered wagon which rattled down Greenpoint Avenue to the dock in a big hurry just before the Alaska pulled out. There were two men in it, and he thinks now that they seemed rather excited as they paid the fare. As the pilot light had gone out, Cornelius was using a lantern, and he did not see their faces. Joseph Ruddock, the peddler, who with his father James Ruddock found the body, was arraigned today in the Manhattan Avenue court and held in bonds of $500 as a suspicious person. His father had already been held.